Policy and Government Committee meeting. First up is approval of our February minutes. If there's any questions on it or anything, but I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes approved. Real quick look at the 500s. I know there was some updates after the last meeting that were made and reflected on there. I will say on the main meeting section, there's a note that says the 507.9 R1 and G1 were updated since the last reading. In this agenda, it also has 502.7 listed. It's not listed in the main one, so
Thank you.
I might just mention that.
I think
If
what
I
happened
remember.
there, and Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had 502 updated at the actual board meeting, but not at the
Oh.
P&G meeting at the time,
So
so.
then we're good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's updated
yeah.
since this last meeting, but the board would have seen the updated 502.7 G1, so I
But
think it's
not
okay.
us.
But not you guys as a
Right.
committee. Yeah.
Then I think we're fine. I
Yeah.
won't worry about it then. So yeah, the only other thing was, we all got the email about the 50115 G1 on the open enrollment or
On the
transfer
transfers,
info,
yeah.
with attendance and behavior listed there. When we're not doing that, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah, and Amy and I
respond.
worked on this, after seeing that email, and I don't think we revoked a transfer behavior during either of our time here. I think it would have been the previous assistant superintendent that would have revoked for any kind of behavior concerns, so we've only revoked for attendance concerns, and I think that's what we would recommend the policy be, not around behavior challenges, because those are gonna go wherever the student is, and so we don't necessarily want to pass those off to a new school building or say, well, you're done here because of your behavior type of thing. So attendance concerns are legitimate because they're potentially traveling farther across the district in some circumstances. So we would recommend probably just striking that from the language and just keeping it focused on attendance.
I don't know how we want to handle it tonight at the board table on it, because I assume in the main meeting, it's just a PDF version also, and so it doesn't show up on here, right, because it's a link to the form. The form's not actually there. So I don't know if we.
But the form is now updated. If somebody was to open up our agenda tonight, click on the link and takes it to the form.
The links aren't active inside of this, and
And we
it's
haven't-
just a highlighted text. It's not actually a link.
And we haven't changed our forms yet, we just wanted to talk to you first.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the kind of thing where we make the motion pending that change or something like that tonight.
Yeah, you can make the motion, with the change in removing behavior from that specific policy. I think for us, it's just been there, but we haven't used it in practice, and so that's probably why we didn't catch it, because we just had refrained from doing that. But it would, to that commenter's point, it would make sense that our policy matches our practice, and I think they were suggesting something different from the communication we got, but I wouldn't recommend that we would allow, revoking transfers based on behaviors concerns, so.
Yeah, I would totally be on board with making sure that the policy matches practice.
Yep.
And
So we just need to narrow it to what our practice actually is. So I think you could suggest approval for 500 series with the change to, what is the number again?
50115 G1.
50115 G1 with the removal of behavior concerns.
Everybody seem good with that?
Yep, I made a note of it.
Any other thoughts on the 500s before we jump into the 6s? All right. So we got our 600s, and I saw there was a handful of edits made already.
Do we want to walk through the edits so the record reflects it? I don't know.
Certainly can.
We have time.
Get it to open. So yeah, we'll walk through the edits that are already made, and then we can take turns if we have other things. Trying to navigate two windows. So 6034 was the first one. Oops, too far. Finds it first.
It's a terminology
Yeah.
component
And
for
others.
Indigenous Americans instead of American Indians.
Awesome.
Yep, I think that's a good change.
6047.
Mm.
It is, what page is this?
The only
51.
worst thing would be trying to do this in a car while
It's-
you're moving.
This one's easy, it's just saying that where the forms are available online
Yeah,
instead of in the office.
Oh, yep.
Or instead of here.
I like the other one, so.
yeah.
Nice feature.
6045.
6054.
Yeah, there we go.
Listen to this, nice, just scrolling. Oh, we got to 5.2.
And a note.
Page
on
83.
606. Page 83, thank you, Kim. Oh, no, wrong way.
All right.
Here, this one index. If you click this little thing, it'll give you this index, and if you click index, it'll take you to the front page, and then you can hyperlink off the front page.
Okay, so that's striking
Fancy.
quite a bit of the, well, the entire second
You
paragraph.
can get a mouse.
Yes.
You go to the website. You just do that.
So 654, we're taking out the word economical. I like that, innovative and effective.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the last red one, we had worked with Adam on that, and I think that's an aspect that we haven't done in a long time. It probably just reflects an old technology practice that we would do some kind of a annual evaluation of that. We know it's pretty ubiquitous in our classrooms now and throughout, so it doesn't really make sense to do that type of evaluation.
Yeah, and that seems like, keep going right on the 605.6 updates, it's, kind of reflecting that as well.
and I'm sorry, I know you said we would do this after, but the question that I had is related to this policy. And I was just curious, so it talks about on the last page, students will sign a form acknowledging they have read and understand the technology, internet acceptable use policy. Is that K through 12? Because I can't imagine kindergartners. I mean, should we be more specific on who's signing what?
Amy, do you know if that's permission at registration that we have? That would be my guess of where it is, that it's permission, but I wonder why we struck parents then if that was the case, because parents are,
Let me look at our tech permissions, I think I can dig that out somewhere.
it's
Yeah,
page
What's
86.
that?
Where's that at?
What?
I'm sorry, I
Page
didn't.
86.
Where's that at?
Oh, page 86,
Okay.
and it's in the second
Yeah, we
to
struck the line that
last
says
paragraph. It's
parent
right
sign
below
permission.
the line that we struck.
And we need a period at the end of regulations there too,
Yeah.
it looks like.
Does it say the student is going to sign it or the parent?
No, it
Says
says
the
students will sign a form acknowledging they have read and understand the internet acceptable use.
Well, the parent permissions wouldn't get at that anyway, so I don't know if we do that in practice. Brady, are you aware of it?
Well, I'm not aware of it.
I think we'll need to bring that one back, because
Okay.
if it is in our parent permissions, then we should strike the other language, but
I think that's part of what Adam circulates to us, and we just signed off on it.
I'm looking at it right
That it's
now.
on
Parent permissions.
Infinite Campus, where the parents, there's a number of assurances they have to give. I think
Yeah.
it's in there.
I'm looking at it right now.
The parents, but not the students, though.
We do that when they have to go into Infinite Campus, they've got to check all these boxes, so I assume that we do it with the students at a different time.
So is this the one called acceptable use policy? you mentioned?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, it says, there is a parent permission, the internet is an essential tool for instruction,
Yeah.
in order to blah, 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 blah. Use of the district network and internet services is subject to provisions of the ICCSD acceptable use policy for technology. I understand the previous statement, the parent selects. I understand.
Mhm.
So then,
It's not the child.
okay,
yeah. So Kim, let's put back in the
Yep.
red struck through part, and then we need to, I think, double check on
Check
what
with
Chase
Adam.
was acknowledging, that if the
Okay.
students also click through something on Infinite Campus.
No, that's what Amy just read, the parents
The
click it
parents.
through.
Yeah,
Oh, I
it's
thought you were
there.
suggesting
No,
that
I'm
the students had
saying-
an additional
That's right.
piece. as
That's what
well.
I'm saying, is they might, at
Okay.
school, but the parents do it through Infinite Campus, I know.
And even if the students have a piece at school,
Then it would
I
have to
don't
be
think
age
it's
required.
not.
Yeah, it's not gonna be for our younger
But they're-
students.
Is it? I think they do, I think it's
Let me
through their
check
Chrome,
that.
when they get their Chromebooks.
Based on what Amy just read,
Every
it,
time,
I don't think it's just that they'll sign a permission form to allow students to use it, because it sounds like the parents are signing a form acknowledging that they
Yeah.
read and understood the policy, like the next sentence, like that's
Yeah.
what they're signing as a parent.
Yeah. Why don't you just let us do some more work on that? We'll make that read accurate to what we have, so. Because like Chase said, now that he said that, some makes me think too on the Chromebooks that when the kids log in, there could be something initially they're agreeing to comply to, so.
So then we'll check into it.
Yep.
So we don't have to, sorry. I
So
didn't-
that's
Oh, that's good.
6056.
Yeah.
Okay. 6063 is the next one.
Oh my gosh. Oh, boy.
You're up, Amy.
Sorry, I'm
Do we know what page we're on?
104, I think.
Thank you.
Why am I not, what is it?
Oh,
Oh, this is why.
it's just changing
Oh,
assistant to deputy.
Oh.
okay.
And because it's animal
Yeah.
policy.
No,
Animals on the- animals on the school district.
These are Chase and Matt's policies.
No,
Okay.
they're not.
Can't stand these policies.
There's a little, on 6063, just a typo maybe,
Yeah.
specific guidance, yeah.
I mean, I'll take this, boss, Amy, but it's gonna stop after about 7 words. Live animals will not be allowed in school district facilities. Period. That's my facilities, cleaning, health and safety brain coming up.
I think that's the,
It is the Phantom
Same.
FI, yeah.
told you last time, the FI
Yeah.
disappears in words.
The problem with this, when we started the history on this, we just thought it was therapy animals. And then
Yeah.
we had 4 different types of animals that we had to classify, and it just got pretty deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think all the 6063s, the G1 and G2 are also
The deputy
Just deputy.
assistant, yeah,
Yeah.
changed.
it is.
6072.
Brady is
We'll get close. Okay, there.
126.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
just found it.
And then you can always, the top one takes you to the hyperlink page.
Okay.
That's crazy.
So we're
Isn't that
striking
right?
the school district comprehensive school and employment plan. Okay.
Yeah, it seems kind of contradictory to the sentence right before that.
Okay,
That makes sense.
yep.
Yeah, I just don't think it's reflected in the CSIP, right?
No.
That would be the thing, so it's just not accurate.
So other folks' notes, and do they want to go first?
My computer just got, I only have one more thing. 605 3E2. Sorry, I have to get to it to make sure I say it correctly. And it's just a question on, do we ever define who members of the school community are? If anybody's reading this, I mean, I don't know if it matters, but is it defined anywhere? I couldn't find it.
That's a good question.
If the members of the school community is defined,
Yeah, is it limited to someone as a child in the school or?
Taxpayer.
or-
I mean, that's what, I'm just saying, I mean, it's a broad umbrella, but,
Yeah, because you'll have outside groups come in and say, yeah, I hear you.
Exactly.
Library, and.
so, I don't know if we need to define it, or can we define it
Yeah.
as taxpayers to the, I mean, so we're not having,
Yeah.
I understand what you're
Okay.
saying. Yeah. I'm just thinking about the
So that probably has,
Yeah.
here's my original thought on that. I don't know the answer to that because it probably has broader implications than just this policy.
okay,
Like, right, like, I guess it doesn't have to. You'd have to say, for this policy, we're defining the school community as this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you just define it, then why wouldn't we enforce that at community
Community
comment,
comment.
for example?
Okay.
Or, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm
Why
not saying we
wouldn't
couldn't, but
enforce
I,
it at community comment?
what?
Why wouldn't we enforce it?
That's what I'm saying, yeah,
I
but
think
I,
we should.
but right, so I think that, so I'm not disagreeing with that, I think you just have to look at it globally in terms of if we define it, what does that mean? Yeah, I'd be all for that, Sean.
I did kind of want to talk about the whole 605.1 through 3. You know, that was the piece that our teacher librarians sent us some of their updates and whatnot, and I think we can all recognize that we already have a pretty robust policy compared to maybe some other places in the state. And, they're great suggestions, and I just want to kind of get it on record that, you know, we did kind of run that by legal, and we're sort of waiting until the end of the legislative session to make sure that they don't throw other curveballs out there, and make sure that whatever changes we put in there are still following the letter of the law. I think is kind of the point there. But I think it's definitely worth revisiting once that does happen, because I think we can always make it more robust. So,
That's exactly what Crystal said too, coming out of Joe's firm, that she did actually consult back with IASB, who was the original, the writer of the policy, and they too recommended that we just sit on it and wait and see what we can do.
yeah, that makes sense.
The only one where the taxes wouldn't work.
Would we offer up potentially some suggested changes back to IASB? I understand their reason for waiting, right? But they kind of craft these things and then send them out to the masses. I see no reason why we can't help that process. If we feel pretty good about some of the suggestions that Lisa and her team has put together, send it back to IASB once this is all settled, and be like, hey, here's some other stuff that we think would be clear
Yeah, I
or
think,
better ways.
and she's been really active in that communication, and I know even with the legislature considering policy, she was in touch with legislators about our policy, and so I think we could send that on to them and say, if, you know, this is helpful in considering, you know, after the session or something to that effect. We could do that, certainly, so.
Well, people don't like to reinvent the wheel. People have already done work that makes sense.
Because Margaret sent it around to a lot of the UVN soups and just said, hey, here's Iowa City's policy. If you don't have one yet, this might be something to build off of, so.
Kim, I think it's 58, just not to hijack that, but in E and 58, there's a weird, it's if, period, the, period, board, period. It's like a
Yeah,
weird.
it's not like that online.
Okay, it's just,
And so I
this
think
is
it's,
not-
yeah, and it happened,
There's another one on page 130.
yeah, it
Okay.
happened on page 130 as well. I think it's just
I
that
didn't know if that was
transition
like
to
for
PDF.
emphasis. like
I'll
we're
make
doing.
sure.
Because I actually went to the online policy.
So it's not there.
It's not there like that. So, something about writing stuff to PDFs. It's weird.
I only have one, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I have a handful actually.
Oh, okay,
so-
this is just, and I don't even, I'm not even asking for anything to be changed, I just kind of wanted to bring it to your attention, it's page 34, 603, .8R1, at the bottom of the page, the Christmas tree, Santa Claus, Easter eggs, Easter bunnies, and Halloween decorations are secular seasonal symbols and can be displayed in seasonal context. And I agree that they are all secular and seasonal, but it just kind of didn't land well with me that they're all Christian. They all Christian bases. And so it would be nice if we could maybe include other religions that are also just seasonal, rather than just, focusing on the Christian ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was just thinking if I could think of an example offhand to include, but yeah, I think we could just work with the team and say, what are a couple other examples of secular symbols that are also designated holidays? I think that's what you're talking about, kind of like some cultural celebrations that would be good to note in here as some examples other than just.
Yeah, I mean, I know that like traditionally that is like the cult, the prime, the dominant culture in here, but just to be more inclusive, I guess, I can think of maybe a dreidel off the top of my head, and maybe, I don't know, maybe ask the equity committee.
That's what I thought,
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to say, was we can probably just ask them for a couple examples to include in there that makes it more reflective. Yep. Yeah, because we do better with the use of religious symbols,
Yeah.
right? We have examples there, but
Yeah.
then when
Well, I
we're talking about
think
the,
So I think that's the, sorry to cut you off, the challenge is if we say something, but then a culture just claims it has a very religious connotation, we don't want to offend anybody by listing it
Exactly,
as
yeah.
saying we think it's secular.
Mhm.
So I think going to
Yeah.
the equity
Just take it to
committee,
the equity
I think going to
Yeah.
equity committee is a good idea.
Yeah, again,
because-
like I said, I don't necessarily want anything changed, I just thought I'd bring it to your attention.
yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to say it's a secular symbol and immediately we all can say that they're Christian symbols though,
Right.
right? At the same time.
Uh-huh.
So like, there could be bunnies and eggs, but you put the word Easter in there, you just made it Christian.
Yeah, right.
So that's the only one you had, Jane?
That's the only one.
I shouldn't say I have a lot, I have like half a dozen, but they're all pretty small. Let's see. The first one, and is not a change, I just kind of wanted a little bit of context, is 601.2, and it's on page 10. Why is this on page 10? Get to it. It talks about
hours and days.
the online or remote learning opportunities as allowed by law is what's in there. And it struck me very similar to the conversation we had on mask mandates, where we have the policy if we're allowed to implement it, and when we're not, we're just not.
Mm-hmm.
And so it struck me as that, and I just kind of want to mention that because currently there are no remote learning opportunities allowed by law except for our certified online learning program, but not for anyone else. But to me, it makes sense that we just leave it there, and then if
Yeah.
the law changes, then we can
Yeah.
do whatever we want. But it just kind of stood out as a very similar piece to that conversation we had.
There was a proposal legislatively, I don't think it went anywhere past the first funnel, that built in, I don't know if you followed it all, 5 days of remote learning
Mm-hmm.
in the case of inclement weather. But I don't think it, but I think it'll be.
So
a
it gets brought
conversation.
up.
Yeah, I think it's, I
that's the
think it's,
point, yeah.
yeah, more schools go 1-to-1 and they have better capability, Wi-Fi, I think that'll be a thing, so it makes sense. Keep it in.
On 6031, which is the very end of page 22 and the beginning of page 23, and this is more of a question, I guess. It talks about the basic instruction program. Is this things that we're just required to offer? It's not requirements that kids have to take it, right? In this part? Because are they required to take 4 units of foreign language? They're not, right?
What's the number, Sean?
It's the end of page 22 and into 23, but it's 603.1.
Well, it'd be a combo, I mean,
It's the offer and teach,
It's
yeah,
the offer and
stuff.
teach stuff, right? That's what I thought, because we have our requirements listed elsewhere.
yeah.
It's just, the way it read to me was like, wait, is this a requirement that everybody's taking all this stuff? And I didn't think it was. So this, we're just required to offer it.
Yeah,
Okay.
required to offer it, and then our graduation requirements reflect what has to be completed.
Then I am cool with that. 6036 is the PE, and it talks about kids being excused from it. And the very last sentence that goes from page 30 into 31 talks about students who are not going to participate in physical education must have a written request or statement from their parents. I only bring that up because my kids have never taken PE, and I have never given you a written request or statement.
Are you offering it now?
I'm giving you my oral statement right now. I'm like, we're not.
Because
Who's asking?
they're
Are you
academic
saying during high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't they have to sign, aren't they supposed to sign something?
Oh, boy.
I've never.
The kid-
Lots of kids are fortunate when they're in shot.
Like,
Oh, no, I think
my
they
kids
just
will get waivers if they've
Yeah.
got full class
Yeah,
loads.
that's
Like,
exactly.
I've never been asked or had to do anything.
Yeah, they enroll online. They know, I mean, I'm thinking through the whole process. They get a paper form, they enroll online. They know the way we walk through, I walk through it with them.
I bet it's
The
a
way they-
transition from the paper document to the online system, because
Yeah,
I think in the
exactly.
past, the parents would have signed the
Yeah.
paper document of the
And
schedule
say-
that reflects the no PE, and then now that it's moved online, the kids just submit it, and then there's never that conversation. So we probably need to do some work on that one to make it reflect practice again. Or if parents are supposed to be notified, then we've got to add a notification component too. Yeah.
Amy, we can add to that list of assurances that we were just talking about where the,
Parents click and say,
where the,
Like I said, I'm a big proponent of the policy matching practice. That does not bring it down. Okay.
There's got to be some. Yeah, I'll talk to you more about it, Amy.
Yeah.
There's gotta be some-
I had
There's
that.
got to be some when those courses are submitted that something goes to the parents, and so if that's a
that's what it used, I mean,
Yeah,
when
something
Victoria was
has-
in school, I used to get something, but that's ages
Yeah.
ago.
yeah.
I don't know that I even get anything when my kids are registering. Like, I have to ask my kid after, like,
Oh.
when he starts the next trimester.
I know, that's why I'm hesitating, because I didn't get anything from my kid either,
So
but.
is that due to the
but-
switch over with Power School Infinite Campus? It's
I don't
No,
know.
it wouldn't be the
No.
SIS that would be the problem, but instead of I'm just thinking from a practicality standpoint, instead of asking for a signature, we could probably add a notification in on the kids. Once they completed I have a plan for their course schedule for the year, then the notification at least goes to the parents to note that the student is being excused from PE. But if policy says it has to be a signature, then we're gonna have to think of a different workaround. Or a different
Yeah, because they
method to
don't,
get
we
that.
don't even do,
Or,
I mean, we give physical pieces of paper out for that. We really try to get them to do it.
Yeah, they do it all
Oh, no,
online,
yeah,
right? I
yeah,
sat with
exactly.
mine, and yeah, it was all submitted, and then I was just thinking nothing came
No.
back to me though as a parent, but if something came back to you, that would at least be a notification, but it's not a signature saying you've
Right.
okayed this for your
Right,
kid,
yeah.
which is a different standard, so.
You know.
It specifically says a written
Right.
request, like, I'm asking you to
Yeah.
excuse my kid from PE, which in and of itself is
Right.
probably not accurate, but, and I'm okay with just striking that line, but I
Yeah.
don't know
It's
if there's
like-
We
requirements
need to make sure we
somewhere.
can, yeah, that's the thing, yeah.
So, definitely go back to look at that one, I guess. I only have 2 left, so. On page 103, it is 606.2, and it's my favorite thing, pledge of allegiance. And I know there was bills and whatnot about it, I don't know what happened with the bills. But the third sentence there that says, students who do not wish to participate may be silent during the recitation of the pledge. Is there a reason that doesn't say students and staff? This isn't the student series. And
No, I mean,
the
it
bill
can
kind of went
because
through that
that's what
basically
we're.
said,
yeah.
well, I didn't go, I don't know if it
Yeah,
went
it
through.
did.
There was the bill
There
that
was
was
the bill,
like.
right, yeah, yeah, it's gonna count.
Teachers had
And-
to stand
but we may not want to change it until their session ends, because that's how the mask mandate get blocked at the very last minute. You get rammed through.
You're just talking from a drawn attention standpoint to it, right, Rutina?
No, I'm saying that if we say tonight at staff, which, I mean, that's fine, just know that before the legislative session ends, it could
could
very
change
well
again.
be
Yeah.
something added, because that's how mask became illegal. They waited until 1 o'clock in the morning.
That's fair. I guess I'd be leery that we would forget to do something about it later.
Was it?
I think it's our practice that we're
Yeah.
not
Oh, yeah, we're
making
definitely
staff.
not making.
Yeah,
staff
we're not
decisions.
making
Yeah.
And I
We're
would
not
prefer
the
to have
members
it
of both staff students.
Yeah.
be explicit there. I
Yeah.
don't think it's in the,
Yeah, I'm looking
the
right.
staff policy
Yeah,
or the
trying to
students
look
policy. I
right.
think
It's
it only
not.
shows up here.
Yeah,
But is the prevailing court case though, Chase, I think it was student-centered, not staff.
Can
I
you
think
just
it-
say persons?
district could be
Or yeah,
fine.
even
Say
those,
persons?
those who
No,
choose.
because Barnett, I mean, that.
Yeah.
I think
Nobody
solves
can-
it. Some of the generic.
Was it
Yeah.
that wrong? Was
Yeah,
it staff
let's just
doing it? Wasn't it?
change it to that, and then to Ruthina's point, if it changes, we'll just have to go back and adjust it at a future P and G and meeting.
Yeah, so, okay.
Changes to staff or
Actually, that might
students.
be my last one, because the other
Just
one was
persons.
the other
Okay.
section, I had all the periods in it. Yeah, that is all mine.
cool.
Anybody from?
I think you
Besides
saw
the
ours.
stuff you already had
Yeah.
in there. Any other things?
Jane, did you get to go through yours?
Yeah, I just have that one.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, good.
Alright. That is
Do we
it
not do
on,
kindergarten?
a first reading on tonight for the 600s? It's not, okay.
Brady and I were just sidebarring on one here. I'm not sure. Kim, do you know, I mean, was the boilerplate the first through 12th, is it not required in kindergarten?
Do we not do that?
It isn't required in kindergarten, that was the language that came out of the legislative session.
No.
Was
Well,
first.
they're all getting
Yeah.
exposed to it
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. Is that right? That's what
Yeah,
it is.
it was first grade.
Huh?
For which one?
Where did they not?
The Pledge of Allegiance,
It
it's
says
written
which
only
part?
first through 12th, but Amy just
Yeah.
had shared that she knew that legislation just says first through 12th. We were wondering why it didn't say kindergarten.
Does anybody do half-day kindergarten anymore? Like,
I don't think in Iowa.
We
Yeah.
offer it.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if that was the thing.
Other states
Because if
do
they're doing
half-day.
the afternoon, they're-
Right, yeah, exactly.
They're trying to get their kindergarten going like we're trying to get preschool going in other states, so.
I did half-day kindergarten when I was.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Our next P and G meeting, April something. Okay.
April something.
19th?
I think I could
Nope,
make that work.
that's wrong.
26th.
26th.
Yeah.
April 26th. We'll hit the 600s again and the 7s, and then I know, yeah, because then we're gonna do the, yeah, we'll have enough time to do everything.
We should.
I think June might be our last one.
Yep.
I would try and cram the 8s and 9s into May, but we'll be fine.
I don't think they're very big. No serious.
So, with that,
Yep, I'm okay with that.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.